Hello and welcome back to the Eden Gathering podcast. It's so good to have you with us. Here I am in the studio once again. I've got a very special guest who I'll introduce to you in just a minute. But just to say again, thank you so much for joining us. We're getting on a good little run of these things, aren't we? I'm really excited about today because I have with me, well, introduce yourself, Kat.
Hello, you just said it. I'm Kat Johnston. What do you want me to say about myself?
Well,
Ben?
okay, I'll intro you
Ask
because,
me some questions.
because the thing is, so one of the things that I love most about Kat is that she's very humble. So I could ask her to intro herself, but she'd probably be like, yeah, I'm just Kat, I've got curly hair and I've got a kid.
Yeah.
Whereas actually Kat is an awesome mum. She has awesome curly hair. She leads a church in Thurston called the Forge Thurston, and she's married to someone with a beard, which isn't always an easy thing to do.
That's true.
And I love what Kat brings. She's a worship leader and speaker, an amazing host, and just her vulnerability shines through in everything that she does. And I absolutely love being able to work with her. And she's on the podcast today.
Yay. Thank you. That's very kind.
Oh,
Ben.
well, thanks so much for coming on. So today's going to be a little bit interesting because we haven't done this before.
Yep.
I haven't done this before. But part of what we're going to do as the Eden podcast is we are going to review a book.
Yay, it's cool.
But one of the things that probably I didn't let on when I agreed to be an Eden podcast host was that I don't actually read.
Lots of people don't.
I don't, I have never actually read a book in my whole life. Like, I've really struggled with reading. I've needed help with it in the past and in school and stuff, and treated like an idiot. I don't enjoy reading. I don't read. It's just not something that I do.
Yeah.
But we are about to discuss and review a book.
Yes.
So if you're, we're obviously going to talk about a book that probably none of you have read as you're listening to this, but neither have I. So it's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good.
I think it'll be fun. Kat, what have you brought in with you?
I have bought a book called Goliath Must Fall. It's by a guy called Louie Giglio.
I love Louie Giglio.
Yeah, so much. So I was really privileged earlier this year to hear him speak a couple of times at a conference I was at, and hence why I got the book, because he was amazing.
So this is really fresh in your brain. This is like a new book.
Yeah, and I don't read lots. I enjoy reading, but I don't give it enough time in my life, except when I'm on holiday. And I think that's true of a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And so actually I've just been away for a week with my family.
Yeah,
and
you've got a bit of a tan going on.
I mean, it was just in this country, but England has been amazing, hasn't it?
It has been, yeah. It's been all right.
Recently.
Other than today.
Yeah, a bit miserable today. Well, we can't really call it miserable, can we?
No.
But, so I was away and I had the chance to read this book and spent some time doing it. And I have to say that actually it's been part of a few different things over the past probably 6 months that I could actually say has changed my life.
Wow.
Actually changed my life.
And it's all kind of come together in this.
Yeah. And it's literally, I was just thinking about it in the car driving over, just thinking about this book and what I've got to say about it and what I think about it. And, it's not until you look back on stuff, is it? And you reflect and you go, wow, actually, there's so many different things that have come together. And this is part of that. So that's why I wanted to review this book.
So where to start?
Yeah.
So, give us the overview. Give us the big, broad back of the cover. Well, actually, let me talk you through it. So I'm in the studio with Kat, and it is a very minimalist looking book.
Yeah.
It hasn't got a picture of a dragon on the front of it.
No.
And it's looks like one of those manageable books. We're talking the first Harry Potter, not the last Harry Potter. That's a sort of level of thickness we're talking about. So give us the overview of the book.
Yeah. So it's called Goliath Must Fall, and it's based around the story of David and Goliath, really. And
so David from the Bible, who's a really young guy, slings the stones at the big giant man who then falls over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it tries to apply that story to our lives today. And in it, Louie Giglio talks about 5 different giants that many of us face today and how we can overcome them. That's the basic premise. So how can we overcome those 5 key giants in our lives, and he's really clear that it's not an exclusive list. Obviously, there's so many more, but it's all about that, giving us kind of practical ways based around this story, looking into that. How can we overcome those giants?
Yeah. We've been doing a series at church recently, the Running with Giants thing.
Yes.
So all I can think of when you say giants is the Take That song, Giants, which we did at the start of the series.
Yes.
So now that is, I mean, maybe we can edit that into the podcast somehow so you can get an insight into my brain. So there's 5.
Yes.
There's 5 things.
Yeah.
Is it too much of a giveaway to tell us what?
No, because it's not, and they're all on the back of the book, and I have the book here, so I can read them out to you. So he talks about the giants of rejection.
Oh, wow. So we're straight in.
Yeah, they're big giants.
Yeah.
Big giants that also cover a whole load of other things.
Yeah.
So you've got rejection, you've got fear, anger, comfort, and addiction. So they're the 5 giants.
Heck.
Yeah.
That's really, because as you described the book, I was thinking, right, well, one of them's going to be relationships, one of them's going to be money, one of them's going to be your workplace.
Yeah.
But so that list has kind of shocked me a bit.
Has it?
Yeah. That's all like emotional
Yeah.
responses to stuff rather than like physical issues.
Yeah.
It's more emotional than physical.
And I think maybe that's a reflection of where we're at in society.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You know, so many people actually, really broadly, they deal with these big issues, and he wants to get deep into so what are the emotions? What's behind that, really? So
what was the hard hitter for you straight away?
Oh, okay. So I would say that for me, the giant of fear is massive in my life. So really, really huge. And I really, really struggle with fear, really struggle with anxiety. So throughout my life, it's probably been quite prominent.
Yeah.
But definitely over the past kind of 7 years, it's been ups and downs, dealing with like an actual medical issue of anxiety. And I have to say, when I came to reading this book, I was in a really bad place.
Yeah.
A place where actually that had a real grip on me. And so that was like the hard hitter for me. And when I am in that place of anxiety, I try to lean into God. I try to lean into my faith and as much as possible. And I try to listen to talks on it and try to get help from anywhere. But nothing has really helped me to overcome that as much as the stuff that's been written in here. So one of the first things that he kind of says about fear in there is that faith counteracts fear. And I have to say, for someone that really struggles with fear, I hate hearing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost offended by that.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know,
if it wasn't Louie Giglio, I would
you'd
throw
be like,
the book in the bin
"What?"
at that point,
Yeah, so, and I was at that point, when I first read that, I was like, okay, is this going to be another one of those books where you tell me that I just need to have more faith?
Great.
And
Hadn't tried that.
and too often Christians or the church can do that.
Yeah.
Can think, oh, well, you just need to have a bit more faith. You need to have a little bit more trust in God. And
well, I think there's a general get over it culture.
Yeah.
That is in church because we pin it to a deity.
Yeah.
Saying you've got this.
Yeah.
So get over it.
Yeah.
But I think like even with my experiences in the workplace, get over it.
Yeah.
Get over it. You know,
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
have anything to be anxious about.
Yeah.
You don't have issues.
Yeah, crack on.
Get over it.
We all deal with the same sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
But
Yeah.
so you've got this element of faith.
Yeah, so he says that, and you kind of read it and you're like, okay, it's not necessarily what I want to hear. But then he's so good because he says faith counteracts fear, but it's not an overnight fix,
Yeah.
which is so true. And then he goes on to talk about how actually fear is deep rooted in and caused by he talks about three main things.
Okay.
But it's caused by something else, and how we need to deal with the underlying issues in order to then deal with the fear and overcome that fear.
Which is hard to get.
Yeah.
Like whenever I'll have to share. I've shared loads on the podcast once. When I'm not the interviewee, I'll be interviewed.
Yeah.
But whenever it's been spoken about in my life, is like get into the root.
Yes.
Which is kind of different language to what you're saying there.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, is it hard to dig?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
And it's blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
And so is that something that you're going through, have gone through, and you know, what does that look like for you? Is that obviously your family Christian?
Yes.
So I think having people around you is obviously so important. But talk us a little bit through the process of what that's looked like for you.
Yeah. Okay. So I have tried several different things to kind of overcome my anxiety and my fear. So medication has helped at times.
Yeah.
Counselling.
So you've seen a doctor.
Yeah, seen a doctor.
But
counselling.
even so, I want to actually go back to that because that's a huge thing. How did you get to that place?
It was just so bad. It was just like, it's crippling at its worst. Like when you don't think that you can cope with life, when you think, I just can't get out of bed in the morning, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it has to be being encouraged by other people. I am so fortunate that actually I'm surrounded by lots of people that realise that doctors can help with this.
Yeah.
Again, we don't hear that enough necessarily.
No.
But to be surrounded by people that are honest and vulnerable and talk about their struggles and say, well, medication has helped me, why don't you give that a go?
Mm-hmm. So who was that in your life? Was it a parent or a friend or a community of people or like several?
I would say it's several different people, definitely friends from different areas of life, people I look up to. So that's definitely helped me at times. It's not something, I don't use medication now, but
okay, wow.
It's definitely something that I would never say don't do it. I'd say if that helps you to deal with this, then.
So, and sorry, I'm aware I'm going a bit down a rabbit hole.
No, that's fine.
But I think this is so important for people to hear. I know people listening to this will not have the relationships and community that you do. Do you have, I mean, this is a lot of responsibility, I guess, but maybe you don't, but what would you say to someone that doesn't know where to start a conversation? Like, look, Mum, I feel like this. You don't know anything about it because I hide it from you.
Yeah.
But this is what I feel, or, you know, what would you say to someone to encourage them?
Okay, well, I think I'd say a couple of things. The first is find the right person to talk to. So it's not necessarily the person that you are closest to. It's not necessarily the person that you have the deepest relationship with, but it's someone that you think they might just understand this.
Yeah.
And I think that's where vulnerability, you know, I'm a big advocate for being vulnerable and authentic in our relationships anyway. But I've definitely had some of the best conversations with people that have been through the same struggles as me.
Right.
That can just relate to you on that level where you can share like really, really how bad it is.
Yeah.
And they're not shocked by it or not in that place where they're like, oh, I don't know what to say or could say the wrong thing. So I think finding the right person has to be key, because otherwise you can be in that situation where someone says the wrong thing to you. Yeah. And then you're like 10 steps back. You've taken a big step forward, but then it's a huge leap back because you've put yourself in a vulnerable position and you don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
So it's finding the right person to talk to about that. And it has to be, you have to be brave. And I know that sounds so stupid when we're talking about fear, but you have to stay in that mindset that actually this is going to really help.
Yeah.
That this is going to make a difference.
Yeah.
That this could be the next step on a journey to me getting better.
Have the big picture in mind.
I think so, yeah. It is being
goal.
brave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think so I just know that some people will be saying like, Kat, I wish I had those people in my life that you've described, and they feel that they won't. And what I would say to you, if that is you that's listening, come to church.
Yeah.
Kat leads a church.
Yeah.
Like there are people, and I know, so Kat leads our site at Thurston.
Yeah.
Along with her husband, and Steve currently leads our Debenham site. And I know some of the stuff that he's had to deal with, and whether it's not been him, but people really close to him, like our church is run by broken people.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
so broken.
Yeah.
I work for the church.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah, we're
Here. Eden is a place that you can find that community. I mean, at the last Eden gathering, we heard from Ben Goodwin. You know Ben, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
and he shared his story about how he'd connected with his friend Sam, his youth leader, Sam, at one of the away weekends we did, and he kind of burnt loads of like his story and burnt it, and it was like really powerful and an emotional moment. But so guys, I know that we've been there with anxiety, and sometimes you can't get out of bed.
No.
But you should know that you're never out of options.
Not
we're
at
here
all.
for you.
Not
Eden's here for you. The church is here for you.
Yeah.
And we're here for you. Reach out to us any way you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That this podcast is a community in itself.
Yeah.
So anyway, so to go back
Sorry,
to your list.
quickly though.
Go on.
Can I just add something to
Yeah.
that? Can I also add that I can't apologise on behalf of the church as a collective. But I think so often it's easy to come into church and think that everyone's got it sorted.
Yeah.
And often we as church leaders, or, those people on stage, or that you see lead your groups and stuff like that, if you're part of church, we can often put on a mask.
Yeah.
And I just think I want to apologise for that when we do that, because I think it puts up a barrier and it stops those conversations from taking place. So, I'm a huge advocate for the fact that we need to be more authentic in that, and we want to be more authentic.
Amen to that.
So,
you
absolutely.
do that so well. You model that fantastically.
Thank you.
So, absolutely. But you were talking through your list of...
Yes. Yeah.
So you done doctors.
Yeah.
And then I cut you off.
That's okay.
Do you remember where you were? Or
Yeah,
not
I
at
do.
all?
Yeah, I do. So I went to doctors and I saw various different doctors. Some I clicked with, some I felt I could have good conversations with and it was helpful, some not so much. So, for example, after I had my daughter Isla, I was quite ill again. I think being a parent, that's been a massive journey for me with my anxiety. And I didn't hear what I wanted to hear, really. I felt a bit judged.
Right.
And so that's hard sometimes when you go to see people again and you
plucked up the courage and you're like, finally, I'm going to get this sorted.
Yeah.
And then...
so that was tough, but then I also saw some amazing doctors and it was really helpful. So that's really good. I also had counselling. So I did a short stint of counselling. I've just recently been to see a counsellor again.
Is that something that you paid for or something that you did through church or something? If you're happy to share.
Yeah. So initially it was paid for, the first stint that I did, but there's a charity locally that provides Christian counselling.
Okay, wow.
They ideally want you to pay for it, but also understand that if finances are limited, then you don't.
We'll put the details of who they are in the notes of the podcast for sure.
I want to say it's Inspire Counselling.
Yeah, well, we can find out and we'll put that all in the description on there.
Yeah, okay. So and counselling, again, you need to find the right person to click
Yeah.
with. It may take a few goes. You know, you might go to see someone and just think, no, that's not the right fit, but don't give up because it could be really helpful.
Have you always seen women or men or?
Woman both times.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a man about it. I think some people would be, but again, it's personal preference, isn't it, really? So, that's
Depends
it.
what your issues are as well.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So counselling. And then it's just been conversations, I think, with great people around me and leaning into God, I think.
Yeah.
And that's been the biggest thing for me recently. And I think that's been the key thing from this book. So
the book.
The book. So when Louie Giglio introduces this book, he talks about the David and Goliath story, and it's mentioned throughout. But he talks about how often we read the David and Goliath story and we do relate it to the giants that we face in our life. And we go, so you can fight your battles. Even if you're small, even if you feel weak, you can fight your battles because David overcame Goliath. And he adds this amazing twist, which just changed my thinking so much, because he says that we aren't David in the David and Goliath story.
Okay.
But Jesus is David in the David and Goliath story.
Wow.
So actually, Jesus is fighting your battle. Jesus has fought your battle for you. And man...
that's giving me tingles, man.
Yeah, I was just like, oh...
Wow.
Okay, so I can let go of some stuff here.
Yeah.
I can fully lean into that and know that, my battle is being fought for me by someone incredible, someone far greater than I am.
Yeah.
And I can live in that. And it doesn't mean that it becomes easier straight away, but I think it did. It was like this release for me of like, oh, okay, I think I can let go of some of that. For someone like me who wants to be in control, I want to fix it. I'm a fixer. I want to fix everything. To go, no, God's got this. Like, Jesus is David in the David and Goliath story.
So good.
Yeah, that's cool, hey?
Yeah.
So that was amazing.
And you say how through this season, you've been leaning into God more.
Yeah.
I think that's the language you use.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you, as an introvert?
Yeah.
Does that look like church? Does that look like getting away from everything?
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's a really good question. Thank you. I think for me, it's worship. And so what I mean by that specifically is I mean singing.
Yeah.
So worship songs are massive for me.
Yeah.
Well,
there's that song Battles.
Yeah.
We'll also whack that in the description.
Yeah, totally.
That's spoken to me so much, and I know that we've spoken about that song as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So that song Battles, really simple song, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is how I fight this is how I fight my battles. But that line, it may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. I'm surrounded by Jesus, by God. That's part of one of the things that's changed my life, I think, over the past 6 months. That song has. But again, Louie Giglio talks about it in his book that he says, sorry, let me grab the quote. He says, the antidote to fear is faith. Mm-hmm. And but the soundtrack of faith is worship.
Yeah, so good.
That, you can't have that fear and be singing that song or have that worship. They kind of counteract each other.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's not a quick fix thing. I'm not saying you're going to whack a Christian song on and it's going to change everything. It could do. But
if it's my album, which is available from all download sites, that'll probably happen.
Yeah.
You'll probably get saved and cured of any illness or disease you have.
Yeah, I think that is...
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened to you, right?
I can't say actually, Ben, that is part of my story.
Okay.
I wish it was. But yeah, I think singing for me is massive.
Yeah.
And so actually, like, you're a huge part of that, in that you've given me opportunities to lead more. And Chris, who leads music at our Thurston congregation. Shout out to Chris Perkins. He's awesome. But encouraging me to be involved in things like Encounter and giving me the confidence to do that again. Because for a long time I really didn't. And to do that has, been massive.
Yeah, and like it was half joke when I introed you, because you are humble, but in one sense, actually, you're just completely disillusioned because you don't know how good you are, especially like when it comes to leading and speaking. So yes, you are humble, but your view of yourself is so warped that there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't have had that confidence in the first place. You just got to live what you're walking, girl.
Hey.
You just got to believe it for yourself.
Listen to that sass.
Exactly.
Thanks.
So yeah, and any other kind of takeaways from the book, or?
Yes, so many. Just read it.
Yeah.
One,
I'm genuinely gonna really try.
Yeah. Or get it. Like, couldn't you listen to it?
Yeah. I'll definitely try that.
Actually, I think he's done some talks on it. If you go to the Passion City website, so he leads Passion City Church in Atlanta. I think they did a series of talks on Goliath Must Fall.
I'll do that.
So.
The thing is about audiobooks is that you can't borrow audiobooks.
Oh.
Like, if I buy an audiobook, I can't just transfer it to you. So
no, that's true.
it kind of sucks. Whereas people just borrow books, don't they?
Yeah, and I have lent this. Like, I've lent this to my mum and my dad, and someone else recently was like, "Yes, I desperately."
The tears on the page.
Yeah. Look, it's pretty well worn already. Yeah. So my dad doesn't read books like this at all. He's like, I don't really read books that are going to change my life.
Yeah.
But he was amazed by it.
Well, I think it's really interesting. Like, I love Louie Giglio so much. Like, if you're listening to this and want to know more about Louie, is my best friend.
Well.
If you check out, it's indescribable, isn't it? Oh, How great is our God?
Yeah.
The laminin thing. What's that one called?
Laminin.
Is that laminin?
I can't.
Anyway,
how do you say it?
Laminan or something like that. I've got all the DVDs, so hit me up if you ever want to borrow them. But they are so good. But if you described that book to me before you told me who it was written by, I've definitely said a female.
Wow. Yeah.
But I know that this will connect with so many males that would otherwise just write off these topics.
Yeah. And that's something that's amazing about this as well, is he's really vulnerable in it. So he's really honest about the fact that he had a massive, I think he would say it was a breakdown at the time.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where some of this comes from. And he's really honest about that. So it's not just for women, it's totally for guys too.
So good. And just whilst we've talked quite a lot about anxiety, just to put it out there as well, some other great talks on anxiety. I just heard Brian Johnston from Bethel Church do a great talk on anxiety. Yeah. Also, I never know how to pronounce his name, Pastor Stephen Furtick.
Yeah.
Great anxiety talk recently.
Cool.
So there's loads of stuff out there because this is a big issue. Yeah. It's always been a big issue, but finally we're talking about it.
Oh. Isn't that good?
And Kat, I'd love to have you back on to talk about like some other stuff in the future as well.
Yeah,
and go a bit deeper on that. But thanks so much for joining us today. It has been so fun. We're actually going to have Kat back on next week, but it's probably going to be a little bit sillier. I'm really proud of myself for not crying today. I definitely thought I was going to cry.
Did you?
Yeah, I absolutely did. So thanks so much for being part of it. We'll absolutely love to have you back. Kat isn't on the social medias. We normally give our guests an opportunity to plug something that is going on, or plug something like their social media. So what would you like to sub in?
What do I want to... I have no idea. What do I want to plug? Come on, give me some ideas.
You could plug... Finn's Twitter. he needs a follower.
Or I don't. I'm having people looking at me now going, don't you have Instagram, Kat? No, I don't. I don't have any social media stuff. Yeah, so follow my husband, Finn.
Yeah.
He is great on social media.
He really tries.
Ben, you're like one of his best mates. You need to be kinder.
No, okay. Let me, I'm going to pull up, what's Finn? It's like Mr. Finn Johnston. But what he does post about is Isla, who is a common interest of you and Finn.
Massive.
And she's just wonderful. And
Yeah.
I know that there's some competition, but I'm really hoping that my son will marry your daughter.
Oh, yeah.
But I know there's some conflict there, so I don't really want to go into that. But if you follow Finn, then you'll also find stuff about Thurston, Forge Thurston, which is the church that Kat leads. And obviously, this is the sort of conversation that we're having here is the sort of conversation that will continue throughout Eden. We've spoken a lot about surrounding yourself with community and how essential that is. So make sure that you sign up for food nights. Yes. Make sure that you get involved with some of the social action stuff, because that can sometimes helping others is the best help that you can give yourself.
Yeah.
And especially I find, like with leading, I have to lead myself out of places. So feel free to step up into leadership. We'd love to have you. The next Eden Gathering is on the 6th of September at the Mix in Stowmarket, 7 p.m, which is going to be a great night. Thank you once again to Mr. Alex Laver, who's produced this podcast and done a great job. Thanks, Kat, for coming in, and we'll see you next week on the podcast. Play the music.